Yo, what's going on, YouTube? I am Germ here. Today we're talking about some potentially very, very big news coming out of the LCS. This news has the chance to delay the LCS summer split, if not, I don't know, prevent it entirely. I'm not really sure what's going to happen here. Ultimately, nothing could happen, but those are some real potential options as well. So this starts with the fact that, if you guys haven't noticed, that the NALCSPA, the LCS Players Association, has been wildin' on Twitter lately. So we recently found out that just 3 LCS teams are going to be keeping their academy team for the summer split, despite the fact that many teams and numerous times have said, hey, we really care about NA player development. We're going to do all the things we can. You know, Cloud9 fans were so sure that Cloud9 was going to keep their academy team because they're all about it, and it's going to give them this huge advantage. And oh, maybe 100 Thieves is going to keep their team, and oh, Golden Guardians and CLG, they're all about, you know, player development and all this stuff, blah, 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 whatever. 3 teams are keeping their teams. FlyQuest, Team Liquid, and Evil Geniuses, you know, and the LCSPA was like, hey, TL, you know, we commend you, Mortals, you're abandoning the NACL, blah, 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 blah. TSM dropped their NACL team immediately after Riot's decision. They didn't so much bother as face the community and announce the end of their NACL program publicly. Riot is bending over backwards to the wrong people. Players and fans deserve better than this. I mean, they're just going pretty crazy on Twitter, pretty wild, which is pretty funny. But this ultimately led us to this story today from Leader Grev. This is Mikhail Klementov. I don't exactly know how to say his name. He used to work for the Washington Post, but I think they got rid of their esports division or some shit like that. I don't know. Really, really good reporter, though. One of my favorite guys. He seems like a really cool, nice guy on Twitter. I interact with him a decent amount, you know, kind of memeing, trolling with him, all this shit. But he does good work. And he says, breaking, the NALCSPA has asked LCS players to vote Sunday on a walkout in protest of changes to the NACL. If we have 26 out of 50 of the LCS players willing to do something, I can tell you right now, the league is not running. So he is literally saying if half of the players in the LCS are down to walk out and prevent the start of the LCS summer split, that they will do it. And this is crazy. And apparently this is all coming down to a vote this Sunday. And who knows how this is going to go, because if we look back to the LCS PA, we saw so many players speaking out against Riot's decision. You know, we had Insanity, we had Palafox, we had, you know, casters and stuff like Cubby speaking out. We have Darshan, Contracts, so many people saying how the LCS Challengers League, you know, helped them make their career and help them get up to the league and help them do all this stuff. Fudge saying Riot is destroying any chance of a future in NA. Now, hey, it's a lot easier to tweet out than it is to actually delay the start of your season, but so many people see that the LCS is heading in a bad direction already. And yeah, some people want to make a change about it. And this is ultimately what your LCS Player Association is supposed to do. We've seen strikes. We've seen shortened seasons in professional sports. So this is not totally unprecedented. Now you can say, hey, why would they want to do this? Are a bunch of people with money on the line really going to do this? You know, is it worth, you know, missing out on paychecks or not having their season started or whatever? Like, maybe potentially. Some people are going to be short-sighted. Some people need the money. Some people need the work. Some people simply don't care. Some people agree with Riot's decision. Also, we do have a lot of imports and stuff that may not even know what the heck's going on or really may not care at all. But it does depend on the education and speeches that are going to be given by the LCS Players Association and their leaders, which some of them are obviously players themselves, and how they're going to be able to influence their teammates and all this stuff. So this is going to be very, very crazy to see. And really, this is truly unprecedented. Not in competition or in sports, but in the world of esports, I don't really think we've ever seen anything quite like this. Leader Grev does say if LCS players vote to walk out, it will be among the first major instances of collective action at the highest levels of esports. And again, this is what these unions are for. These are what these players associations are for. And if they don't have any power, if they can't do anything, if they can't make any change, then they're not really doing anything in the first place. So here's a little bit more. He says the proposed walkout targets a recent decision by Riot, which publishes league and oversees esports, to change a rule that required tier 1 teams to field an amateur team. Obviously, that's what they're going after. The LCSPA's executive director said the group was not informed in advance of Riot's decision, which he characterized as a significant breach of trust. Riot lied to us, Aram said, and the outcome of that lie is that half of our players' jobs are gone overnight. Because again, no one knew if the challengers, if you were going to have to keep your academy teams, if that was going to be a requirement going into the future. But they were kind of, or they at least claimed that they were told that this was for sure going to be a thing in summer. And again, between spring and summer, to have all these teams cut and have all these players, analysts, coaches, all these people lose their jobs is pretty gross and pretty disgusting, especially when, you know, these are multi-million-dollar organizations, and we're talking about, you know, expenses that ultimately shouldn't be that much for academy teams and talent and all this stuff. And the fact that a lot of these players players. You can blame some of it on Riot as well, and that's very, very fair, but a lot of these teams and orgs have made the decisions that have gotten us into this dark time in the first place, and are now not willing to face the consequences of a lot of their actions and decisions, at least in my opinion. The call for a walkout vote follows a week of frenzied lobbying by the LCSPA. The director, Aram, said it would be impossible to go back and negotiate with Riot without establishing that their changes to the NACL were not acceptable. The decision by the Executive Council followed a week of behind-the-scenes lobbying. On May 6th, the anonymous League Esports Twitter account LCS EV tweeted that all 10 LCS teams had voted to remove the requirement to field an NACL team. The account also shared that the team had pushed for that requirement to end before the beginning of the summer split. After that tweet, Aram said the Players Association made several entreaties to Riot offering compromises that might reduce costs for teams without dismantling the NACL. Those culminated in an 11th hour call between Aram and Riot, where Riot announced it had made the decision to remove the requirement. Every step of the way, they've shown us that there was no plan, there is no commitment. The only commitment is to giving these teams an out without any consideration for what the impact is. It's just shameful, especially for a group that 3 or 4 weeks ago was saying we're building the future of sports. Aram claims that Riot gave each LCS team $3 million this year from a league revenue pool. He says if teams can't make it with that money, you're not a partner that's right for the league and you ought to be replaced. And yeah, I do believe that the LCS PA tweeted this out. Riot gave each team $3 million this year to operate in LCS plus NACL, but only 3 could afford to spend 15 to 20% of that to promote the future of NACL. Shame on Riot for letting teams get away with it, and shame on every team that pocketed the future of the league. Again, they're claiming that, hey, Riot gave each of these teams $3 million, yet now these teams are claiming that they don't have money or can't afford to operate academy teams for the summer. And again, if you were given $3 million, if this all is true, that should be bullshit. That should just be an absolute falsity, unless you're looking to just cut these teams to save money. Obviously, that doesn't mean that necessarily that money was being spent in good faith or being used in the right ways. This didn't make it in the story, but I asked Aram about the possibility of retaliation against players who vote to walk out. They have a right to walk out and deny labor, and they cannot be retaliated against. There's reality as well in the history of labor that some will attempt to retaliate in spite of that. That's consideration the players will have to consider, but we will do everything in our power to fight that. It is unlawful to retaliate against a group of employees who legally walk out, and to break the law is a violation of the TPA with Riot and would disqualify any team from participating in the LCS immediately. He says he reached out to Riot, still hasn't heard anything back. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, this is clearly, we are in uncharted waters now with these things potentially being staged. We'll have to see what happens. Again, apparently this vote is going to go down on Sunday. We are 5 or 6 days away. So, hey, if fans, players, teams, anyone like that wants to put in their word, wants to make their voices, opinions felt and recognized by these players and the groups in the Players Association, or by Riot, or by any of the LCS orgs, you still have time to do that, because this vote is coming very, very soon. But this is going to be interesting to see. Also, just even the fact that there is a vote being held could put pressure on Riot, could put pressure on some of these teams and players and stuff. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens. But again, there is a potential that the LCS Summer Split could be delayed, could be pushed back, could be canceled outright altogether. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But I think this is honestly a cool thing that the LCSPA is doing. And again, we've actually seen this numerous times in professional sports. This is not insane what they're trying to do. It's actually very, very common. And when you do it correctly, you can actually gain a lot of ground and do a lot of good for both your league and your players, which again is who they are ultimately representing at the end of the day. And that could be good for the fans as well. Maybe not. Who knows? But pretty much every video today, guys. Hopefully catch you in the next one. Until then, peace.